Alright, well, I kind of thought I'd try and do something a little different. Haven't made a video in a while, so I just figured I don't know, get in front of the camera and make something. But I've been watching, some of Jake Baldino's, kind of like more personal channel stuff on YouTube lately, and he's been kind of harkening back to some of like the older games that he used to play as a kid and stuff. Just mentioning stuff in passing, and he's got a few videos where he talks about series he would like to see brought back and stuff like that. And that got me kind of thinking of a video idea that I've kind of played around with in the past, of my life through games. That's where I'm kind of going to be chronicling my life through the video games that I was playing throughout that time. So, with that established, I'm just going to go ahead and start jumping right in. Number one, the first game that I can ever remember playing was Doom on the original PC. Well, all PCs, but you know what I mean. Like the DOS booted fucking id Software Doom. So when my parents had me, they were still kind of on the younger side. Not like super young. I think my dad was in his 20s, my mom was in her 20s. But they were early 20s. So they still weren't quite, like super mature, established. I don't know what you would really want to call it. But my dad would, still play PC games, in his downtime. And even after, having me, he would kind of just like set me on his lap and just play his games. Well, what would end up happening is basically, I am a infant child, being stimulated by this mesmerizing experience in front of me. And after watching it for so long, like I started to make connections and whatnot. And like even as essentially an infant, I was eventually able to start comprehending enough of this game to actually start playing it. And I don't think it was something he really knew a lot about, like, as it was happening, because he was, for the most part, like, he would pass out, basically, is what would happen. He'd pass out playing the game into the night, holding me. He'd, like, basically just forget to put me to bed. And I would just start playing. And I remember that I didn't really make a whole lot of progress or like figure anything out. I remember the first room of Doom like very vividly. I remember running around that first stage a lot because I was a baby. I was literally a baby trying to figure out all that stuff out. But I did remember specifically that once I figured out save scumming, and to this day I want to say it was one of the F keys, like F11 or something like that. Once I figured out that there was a button like that mapped that would save my progress, so that like if something happened to me, like I could just boop, and I'd go right back to where I was. I started making a lot more progress because I was able to clear out all the enemies and get all the loot and find all the secrets and stuff. And if I fell in the lava, which I did a lot, or the acid or whatever, the environmental hazard, then I could go back, and I remember it was probably my second birthday, like my age 2, or age 1, maybe? No, it would have been age 2, because I was 1 by this point. It would have been like my second birthday that I finally like started like completing levels. But yeah, so I was playing Doom basically as an infant slash toddler, because the game released in December of '93, and I was born in March of '92, so I was basically just old enough to start playing it. Prior to that, I think the only game that my dad was letting me play was this game that was like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse or some shit like that. Like it had like a little overlay for the fucking keyboard that like turned it into fucking shapes and shit. I don't know what either of them were thinking buying something like that for a kid, and I don't know how they weren't blown the fuck away that like I was playing video games that young, but to them it was just like, he's just learning quick. Anywho, so my next game that I can remember at least was probably Mario, but Mario is one of those games where like I feel like everybody talks about it, so I'm just gonna glaze right over that. So the next major game I can remember playing specifically, because I think we all played Mario, was Mega Man 3 for the original NES. Now that was an older game. That came out in September 28th of 1990, but I didn't end up having it available to me to play until much later. I think my dad like acquired like a haul of NES games from like either his brother or a friend of his or something like that. But eventually, like, we set up the old NES in a back room and started to mess around with that and started having our own game console, which was much preferred because my dad hated us fucking touching his computer, like fucking hated it. Won't get into physical traumas and child abuse and whatnot, but yeah, we got in a lot of trouble. So yeah, Mega Man 3. I remember being very interested in the dynamics of like enemies taking more damage for certain attacks and whatnot like that. Later on in life, at this point in life, I hadn't actually figured out that there was any kind of like rock, paper, scissors kind of effect to the game. I only understood that some levels were easier to get through than others, and in my mind, I had the best chance of making progress. Making progress if I could just beat a level. So I think the first level I actually beat was Snake Man. And Snake Man is a real fucking bitch of a level. And a bitch of a fucking boss. He's fast. He's really fast. So I don't know how that was like the first boss I beat in that game, but I must have been on my A game or some shit. I do remember the tracks in that game fucking slapped. They were fucking bangers. I want to say, was it Shadow Man? Am I thinking of Shadow Man? Yeah, he's in 3. Yeah, Shadow Man stage, as well. So, like, Snake Man stage, fucking banger. Shadow Man stage, fucking banger. Those fucking songs were fucking hype. You know, like, was like, should I fucking, like, try and, like... Nah, that's fucking goofy. I whistle them sometimes at work, though. Like, that's still how ingrained some of those songs are in me. Like, Mega Man's tracks are fucking bangers. But yeah, I don't think I ever actually beat Mega Man 3 as a kid. I didn't beat a lot of the games that I played as a child, and I really regret it, because, like, nowadays, like, if I have a game I haven't beat, like, I usually make a point to go back and fucking beat it. Like, it's something that fucking eats at me if I don't fucking do it. The next game that I remember playing was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game for the original NES. That game's a fucking bitch. There's a lot of games I remember because they were hard, but that one in particular, like, y'all know that fucking Coral Reef level was a fucking nightmare. With the fucking electrocuting fucking, I don't know what the fuck to call it. Seaweed. My brain wanted to call it kombu because I'm so used to fucking gastronomy shit. But yeah, that game is really fucking good though. Side-scrolling, like, adventure games. Well, I guess not adventure games, just side-scrollers in general. It's a genre I really wish we could get back, because I feel like it was a good tried and true type of game. And, like, nowadays, like, they gotta put all kinds of thrills and shit. What the fuck is that phrase? I don't know. I literally can't remember the fucking thread. Thrills and frills. That's it. The frills. Fuck, I couldn't remember the word. You have to throw all kind of thrills and frills on the old side scrollers to make them fucking cool. So we have a Metroidvania style of side scrollers now, and that's pretty much all we have. And those are pretty nostalgia heavy too. Like, it's not very often we get one of those. Like, Hollow Knight is the last one I can remember. That was also a fucking banger. But anywho, yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I never got past the fucking seaweed level. Like, I'm just gonna level with y'all. Like, I think I did get past it once, but at that point I had 3 turtles down, and, like, Leonardo had, like, a little bit of health left, and I fucking got, like, squashed by a fucking, like, foot patrol fucking vehicle or whatever, because that was my first encounter seeing a vehicle, like an enemy vehicle, so they just fucking squashed me on the overworld map. The next game I remember playing was Ninja Gaiden. I had 1, 2, and 3 in the collection at some point. And I wish I knew, like, where my parents had the NES, because, like, I mean, obviously it was never mine, but, like, some of these games would be worth some serious money if we could find any of that shit. I'm sure it exists in their house somewhere. But anywho, yeah, Ninja Gaiden. I think I only got to the final boss of the first one, but, like, man, if you've played any of those original NES games, you know how fucking frustrating those original Ninja Gaiden games are. And the final bosses, like, man, it's like, even if you get a rhythm and you get, like, your mojo going and you're starting to fucking feel it, and you're like, yeah, I'm fucking good at this game, I'm getting there, I'm fucking getting my timing, I'm making my jumps, I'm fucking using my weapons, I got my bonuses, you know, I'm fucking making strategic use of fucking panning off the side and then of the screen and coming back to fucking respawn enemies or despawn enemies. Cause that was a fucking trick we all used to use. Anywho, the bosses didn't fucking give a shit. They didn't give a shit what you learned. They didn't give a shit what you fucking earned. Like, your skill did not fucking phase them. They would just put you in the fucking dirt. And all your fucking progress would basically reset to zero because, you know, we didn't have save back then. And we didn't save back in Doom, but that was PC. That was a power PC, baby. But yeah, Ninja Gaiden. And that was pretty much the last I played of anything on the NES. I played a lot of other NES games, but these are just kind of the highlights. And I'm not going to mention the years on those last two, because my parents owned those games before they ever had me. I think Doom was actually the first game that, like, came out in my lifetime. The next game I can remember playing is Donkey Kong Land. So, allegedly, my parents bought me a little yellow Game Boy Pocket and a copy of Donkey Kong Land. My dad had this stupid thing where he called me his little monkey. So, I don't know. I'm sure there's some fucking cute, fucking dumbass bullshit going on there. But, anywho, I definitely beat the game, but it might have been later in life when I had my Game Boy Color, because, like, the game still worked on Game Boy Color, it just didn't have color. But my Game Boy Pocket got stolen. I'm pretty sure, like, we went up to, like, my grandparents' cabin, and one of our cousins that was staying there stole it. Which, you know, whatever. You gotta steal a Game Boy from a little kid. I'm pretty sure it was Christmas, too. It was, like, whatever. We had, like, several different families for the Christmas parties up there, though, so it wasn't like anyone was, like, actually close, or even actually family, for that matter. Like, I still don't consider my last name to be, like, my last name. Like, long story short, my dad's parents split up, and then she got remarried, and when she got remarried, she took his name, Van Scotter. Shit, I probably shouldn't have name dropped myself. Oh well. Such is life. And so yeah, when they did that, the new stepdad, this guy, he had to go to Saudi Arabia for, like, a contracting job or some shit. I think he was, like, working on an airport. But he took a whole fucking family with him. And so they all had to have their names changed so they could fucking get a passport and fucking, like, get fucking visa, or not visas, but, you know, fucking travel over to Saudi Arabia. So the whole fucking family ends up with this fucking last name, where fucking, like, only maybe a fucking quarter of them actually, like, belong to it, but who cares? Last names, families, all that shit, that don't fucking mean shit. None of that means fucking garbage. Families, bullshit. You make your own family. But, anywho, so, yeah. Didn't get a chance to finish that one. At least not, you know, in that kind of old time frame. Next games I can remember playing were Crash Bandicoot 2 and Twisted Metal. Now, I mentioned those two games in tandem because my dad had taken us to a Costco and he was planning on buying a new gaming console. And at this point, he had the choice between a PlayStation and an N64. And I distinctly remember that both of these consoles came bundled with, like, free games. Now, the N64 bundle came bundled with, I believe it was, shit, I want to say Zelda. I think it was Zelda and Banjo-Kazooie. I might be off on my dates on that one, but feel free to check it. But the PlayStation had Crash Bandicoot 2 and Twisted Metal. My dad thought that Nintendos were for children at this point. That the N64 had kind of betrayed the place of Nintendo games. Sorry about that. I started bleeding from my ear, so I kind of stopped and readjusted a little bit. So hopefully you don't have to see that as much anymore. This angle might not be as great, but whatever. I'm not a cinematographer or anything like that. Anywho, Dad ended up kind of thinking that N64 was kind of like for children, and I think he was kind of right in a way, like looking back on it, because if you look at Nintendo, the NES was kind of like a wild fucking untamed land as far as gaming goes. Like, you could get damn near anything put on a Nintendo, like on an NES. And then when the Super Nintendo came out, it was a lot of the same. It was just kind of higher budget because, the games had to be a little bit more advanced. I think Nintendo started having a little bit higher criteria for their games, or at least for their games being on that console. But Nintendo 64 was a lot of first party kind of games, or at least games that would eventually become first party games. So there really wasn't as much in the way of like mature themes for the original N64, at least not right out the gate. So my dad ended up deciding on PlayStation, which was kind of funny because he knew nothing about Crash Bandicoot, and he knew nothing about Twisted Metal. Twisted Metal he just assumed was a racing game. He's kind of right. But he ended up hating Crash Bandicoot, thought it was a kid's game, and was, basically just furious. Thought he'd been fucking duped. Actually, I believe there was a period where he wanted to return the PlayStation because of that game. And it was like, no, you dumbass. Like, you took the whole fucking console out of the box. Like, you can't return just the game. Also, it was a bundle. Like, the game was free. Like, piss off. And also, bundles back then were rare as shit. Like, nowadays, you can get a fucking free game with your fucking console any day of the week, but back then, like, getting 2 free games with your console, that was fucking pretty insane. Mind you, that was when game prices were a little bit cheaper, but I digress. So anywho, so yeah, Crash Bandicoot 2 and Twisted Metal. Twisted Metal, not my bag. I don't like car games, really. If you're gonna make a car game, making it one where you can fucking blow shit up is definitely the way to go, as far as I'm concerned, at least. But then with Crash Bandicoot 2, that was definitely a good fucking game. To this day, I'm still a little salty just because of the way things panned out that I didn't play the first one first. Because I feel like contextually, like story-wise, like I had no fucking clue what was going on. Like I started to understand a little bit of what was happening, as I played through the game. But, like, as far as, like, established villains and, like, storylines and characters and shit, like, I had no fucking clue what was going on. Um, but I do kind of feel like, and maybe this is just bias because of it being the first one I played, but I kind of feel like Crash Bandicoot was one of those series where the first one was just like, let's try this out, and the second one was like, let's put our soul into it, kind of thing. Another game series I kind of feel like does that is like Halo, for example. A lot of people shit on Halo 2, but like Halo 2 was like definitive Halo. Halo 1 was great. Nothing wrong with Halo 1. I'm not going to bag on it. You know, Combat Evolved is chef's kiss. But Halo 2? Halo 2? Halo 2 is fucking... It's fucking gold, is what it is. Fucking knocked it out of the park. Still does, sometimes. But anyway, yeah, Crash Bandicoot 2, awesome adventure platformer. We need more platformers. I miss platformers. But yeah, that's it for that era. So that would have been... Crash Bandicoot 2 came out on Halloween of '97, so it would have had to been around there when we picked up that PlayStation. You'll notice kind of a trend here, after this point at least, where I seem to get things like a year or two late. And that's mostly just because my parents were not well off at all. And sometimes it seemed like if I really wanted something, they were still catching up and buying me the shit that I wanted last year. It was kind of frustrating, but, you know, some might say that's like a spoiled mentality or whatever, but, like, I really didn't ask for much, and I didn't get much by a fucking long shot compared to my fucking brother, who was younger than me, mind you. But admittedly, I was asking for a lot of games and card games and stuff like that as a kid growing up. I needed a lot of stimulus, or stimuli. I was very needy, I guess. Anywho, next game I can remember is Pokemon Yellow. Me and my brother both got Pokemon games and Game Boys for Christmas of, I think it was '98. And he got Pokemon Red and a Kiwi Game Boy Color, and I got Pokemon Yellow and the purple see-through one. I always hated that color, not gonna lie. It kind of grew on me just because it was the one I had, but I don't know. Of all the colors the Game Boy Color came in, like, man, I really just would have preferred, like, black or something. But I was always jealous of the kids that had, like, fucking red ones and shit, like the, like, really weird ones, the ones you probably didn't just pick up from Walmart. But I digress. Pokemon Yellow was kind of like my first introduction into RPGs, and really just more long-form games in general. I really wasn't used to games at that point where, you know, you like sit down, make some progress, save your game, and come back to it. A lot of games I played before that, you know, I mean, like, obviously Crash Bandicoot was more progress based, but and I was into the whole saving thing, but it was kind of a new technology in a way, especially to have it mobile, to have it pocket. But yeah, I fucking loved Pokemon at that point. Ever since then I was hooked. I've kind of fallen off Pokemon in recent years just because I don't like a lot of the choices that they've made as far as direction and design. But the real schism, I guess you could say, was I had some Pokemon from Pokemon X Or no, it was Black 2. No, X was the newest one I had. Had some Pokemon from X. And I moved a bunch of Pokemon over from Black and White and Diamond and Pearl and fucking all those other DS games. Trying to move them over from Pokemon Bank to get them moved over to Pokemon X. And I got a lot of them moved over. So, like, a lot of them did get moved. But I didn't move all of them because there was just so many that at a certain point I was just like, eh. Like, I'll get to it later. There's so many. Like, so many. And the mechanic for getting them into that game was kind of strange. So, yeah. It might have even been, like, one of those things where you can only get 6 every 24 hours or some dumb shit like that. So, it was just, like, weird. But anywho, so I still had some left in the box, is kind of the takeaway here. And at that point, Pokemon Box had a subscription fee of $5 a year for an annual subscription, which is fine. It's absolutely fine. Totally understandable. But at this point in my life, I was not working, and I had no money. I didn't have, like, a debit card or a credit card. Well, I did have a debit card, but I didn't have, like, anything attached to it. There wasn't any money in there. So anywho, long story short, come time for payment due, payment not received, cancel the account, they close out the box. All Pokemon that were still in that box were deleted. So, nothing you can do, you know, when that kind of thing happens. And I'm sure I'm like drop in a bucket kind of individuals who dealt with this kind of thing, because, like, you know, I really should have just known better. I really should have just done my research, done my homework. But I was still kind of young at this point. You know, X and Y wasn't all that long ago, but it was still pretty long time ago. And I also really didn't mature as fast as other kids did. Like, I really don't think I would have considered myself, like, adult-ish. Like, even just adult adjacent until I was, like, at least 20, 21, 22 maybe. I didn't have my license until I was 25, so that gives you any idea. Yeah, Pokemon. That was Pokemon. The next game I played was Digimon World. That was on the PlayStation. That game is fucking nuts. I've actually gone back, like, as an adult to try and play that game, to try and make sense of it, because it just does not hold your hand at all. And that game still is just a fucking wild ride of fucking really strange bullshit. That game does not tell you how to play, like, at all. It's all hidden. So, yeah, it's a weird fucking game. Fucking cool, though. Like, the aesthetic, the style, it's all very, like, that weird, like, retro, digital 90s Japan kind of vibe. Super fucking cool, if you know what I mean. Like, if you played Digimon in the 90s, the aesthetic, you know the fucking aesthetic. It's fucking cool as shit. If you know, you know, is really what it boils down to. That same year, but pretty much the opposite end of the year, I ended up getting Pokemon Gold. Pokemon Gold was fantastic. Gold and Silver, really. But for once in the series history, the sequel was a strict upgrade in every conceivable way. They had an entire new generation of Pokemon, Gen 2, then a whole new region in Johto, all new gym leaders, all new, area to explore, lore to learn, fucking story to deal with. But then on top of that, at a certain point, you can go back to Kanto and revisit all of those gym leaders that you beat when you were younger. Not all of them, because I think one or two of them might have passed away or something like that. But then you can fucking fight the Elite Four, and you get to find out that Lance is the champion now. And then you can fucking, like, hunt down the player from fucking Red, Yellow, Blue, or Red, Blue, Yellow, in a fucking cave, and fucking fight him too, and he's got some fucking badass Pokemon. They're like fucking, like, real high level shit. Let's see if I can remember. I know it was a Pikachu, I want to say like 81, really fucking high for NPC trainers. I think his second up was fucking Espeon, I want to say it was like 83 or something like that. Then you got a Venusaur, a Charizard, and a Blastoise. And those are all like fucking 85 or 86 or some shit like that. And then he's got a fucking Snorlax. And that Snorlax was a fucking tank, man. It had so much health. And it would just body slam you and just fucking... or Earthquake. They all knew Earthquake. That was the other, like, big bullshit thing about his team. I literally think every Pokemon on his team had Earthquake. And we all know how fucking powerful Earthquake is in Pokemon games. Like, especially back in those older ones, Earthquake just did the work. But yeah, that game was fucking badass. I ended up getting Crystal the next year. Crystal is where I kind of started to learn about some of the infant malevolence of the gaming industry. That's where it all started for me, at least, because Crystal was ultimately just gold with a little bit of extra fluff. And it's really frustrating to me that they continued that trend for so long, because, you know, Red, Blue had Yellow. Yellow was a strictly better version of the other two, so if you missed the first two, and, like, you still wanted to get on the bandwagon, you could buy Yellow. But if you bought in, if you were, like, an early adopter to, like, Red and Blue, Pokemon Red and Blue, then it was kind of a stretch to fucking, like, justify getting into Yellow when, you know, it's only just a little bit better version of the game you already played. And the same thing happened with Gold, Silver, Crystal. Same thing happened with Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. I don't know for sure if it ever happened again after that. Yes, it did. Because there was Diamond, Pearl, and then Platinum. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know, it's just a shady way to fucking... I mean, selling two of the same game in the first place is a real fucky move. But to fucking throw a third one on there, like, Nintendo was just fucking... money machine go boo. Ugh. Anywho, alright, this video is coming up on 40 minutes. We're pretty much getting right to the start of the 2000s. So we've covered the 90s. We've covered, you know, the infant years of my childhood. So I'm gonna try and do a part 2 at some point. Let me know down in the comments if you actually enjoy this kind of stuff. I really didn't talk a whole lot about the games now that I'm thinking about it, but I don't know. Like, maybe we can have discussions down in the comments if you want to, like, oh yeah, I remember that game. You know, just like nostalgia trip. So, anywho, let me know if you're interested in the part 2. I'll probably still do it regardless, but anywho. Alright. Peace out, guys.